Picture this. It's an ordinary day, much like any other. The sun rises, casting its golden glow over the cities, the forests, and the oceans of the earth. People wake up, get dressed, and go about their usual routines. Little do they know, a catastrophic event is already unfolding. Across the globe, in the invisible reaches of space, the satellites that support everything from weather forecasts to GPS systems, from global communications to scientific research, are slowly and silently losing their hold in orbit. Without warning, every one of these orbiting satellites begins its descent back to Earth. At first, the event is subtle, almost imperceptible to the average person. But soon, the effects begin to ripple through our lives. The loss of these machines is like a chain reaction, setting in motion a sequence of crises that no one could have anticipated. In this single moment, the infrastructure of modern society, once considered unbreakable, begins to crumble. What does a world without satellites look like? We are about to find out. The first real sign that something is terribly wrong comes when your phone, which you reach for out of habit, suddenly shows no signal. Your text messages won't send, your emails remain unsent, and the internet refuses to load. This sudden silence spreads quickly. The world's communication network, which relies on satellites to maintain global connectivity, is down. Without satellites in orbit, phone calls, internet access, and television broadcasts, which most people have relied on for years, stop functioning. Television and radio broadcasts flicker out. News outlets, which once seamlessly connected people to crucial information in times of crisis, are left scrambling for terrestrial means of communication, but they fall short. The global media infrastructure collapses almost instantly. What follows is a collective sense of isolation. People can no longer stay in touch with family members in other parts of the world, and even businesses that relied on satellite communications to coordinate with international teams or clients are left in the dark. As days pass, this information blackout feels less like an inconvenience and more like an existential challenge. With no way to send or receive signals, the world feels distant, even though we're physically still connected. The absence of communication stirs unease, as people begin to realize that they've become more dependent on these invisible links than they ever imagined. Next, the realization dawns on the masses that their ability to navigate the world, whether driving to work, traveling on planes, or shipping goods across countries, is also in jeopardy. The GPS systems that guide people across roads, help planes chart safe flight paths, and ensure global supply chains remain efficient no longer work. You watch as planes in the sky no longer follow the familiar, precise flight paths they once adhered to. They're adrift, uncertain, as ground-based radar systems, while still functional, are far less effective and lack the precision that satellites once provided. For those on the ground, navigating cities and unfamiliar terrains becomes an exhausting trial of memory and old-school maps. Traffic is chaotic, as drivers, once accustomed to trusting the blue line on their phones or car GPS systems, now wander aimlessly, confused and frustrated. The convenience of turning on an app to find the quickest route or a local restaurant is wiped out. It's not just personal travel that's affected. Shipping and logistics grind to a halt. Cargo ships, which rely on GPS for navigation across vast ocean distances, can no longer accurately plot their courses. Trucks transporting goods must revert to outdated methods, using paper maps and unreliable communication. The world that was once globalized and interconnected, where a package could move from one continent to another in a matter of days, begins to experience delays and confusion. But the most concerning consequence of all might be the loss of weather forecasting. Satellites give us a window into the atmosphere, allowing meteorologists to track storms, monitor temperature changes, and predict weather patterns that affect millions of people. Without this satellite data, forecasters are left to rely on ground-based observations, methods that are far less accurate and more time-consuming. As storms approach, there are no early warning systems to prepare people for severe weather. Hurricanes form and intensify without the foreknowledge that satellites provide, making it impossible to predict the scale of the damage they might cause. Communities along coastlines, previously protected by days of warning, are now caught off guard. Flash floods, tornadoes, and snowstorms hit without the necessary alerts that once helped authorities issue evacuation orders or prepare resources. In the larger context, the absence of climate data is just as dire. Satellites have provided key insights into the planet's changing climate, monitoring everything from the melting of ice caps to rising sea levels. Without this information, efforts to combat climate change falter. Governments and scientists alike are in the dark, unable to track the rapid shifts in the planet's health. The lack of understanding of global environmental patterns makes it more difficult to make informed policy decisions, and time lost in understanding these changes could make recovery from environmental disasters even harder. The military, which relies heavily on satellite technology for communication, reconnaissance, and surveillance, finds itself in an unprecedented crisis. With every satellite crashing down, the ability to securely transmit messages between units, countries, and military command centers is lost. Countries that once depended on satellites for strategic intelligence now find themselves at a major disadvantage. Reconnaissance satellites, which had once given nations insight into enemy troop movements and weapons deployments, are now absent, leaving countries to rely on outdated and less reliable methods. The lack of global surveillance means that military forces are no longer able to monitor dangerous activities like illegal arms trading, human trafficking, or terrorist movements with the same precision. As the military scrambles to re-establish its technological edge, it becomes clear that the security of nations is now more fragile than ever. Nations once accustomed to a sense of relative safety, bolstered by satellite surveillance, now face new and unforeseen risks. This ripple effect spreads to other forms of security as well. Policing and intelligence agencies, which depended on satellite-based technology for tracking criminal organizations or terrorist cells, are left without one of their most valuable tools. In an age where global crime is increasingly sophisticated, the sudden loss of surveillance capabilities sets back efforts to keep people safe and secure. It creates a vacuum of information, and the rise of misinformation and false narratives becomes inevitable. The loss of every satellite is not just an issue for the here and now. It also profoundly impacts the future of scientific discovery. For decades, satellites have been our gateway to the cosmos, enabling us to explore planets, stars, and distant galaxies. The Hubble Space Telescope, once our primary means of peering into the vastness of space, can no longer provide its crucial insights. Data from planetary probes, designed to explore Mars, Venus, and beyond, is suddenly unreachable. On Earth, satellites have enabled scientists to gather crucial data on everything from biodiversity to human health. Environmental changes, such as deforestation, soil erosion, and biodiversity loss, are harder to monitor. New technologies for mapping the oceans, studying volcanic activity, and predicting earthquakes are rendered obsolete without the necessary space-based infrastructure. The advancement of human knowledge is stunted, and what was once a rich field of possibilities for scientific discovery becomes a barren wasteland. In the aftermath of this global catastrophe, humanity will inevitably begin to rebuild, but the path forward is not easy. New satellites must be launched, but the cost of doing so would be astronomical. The world's governments and private companies must pool their resources to restore the lost infrastructure. The effort is monumental and would take years, if not decades, to achieve. The world, once globally connected, now finds itself more isolated and divided. Yet, even in this time of crisis, there are sparks of resilience. Humanity has always found a way to adapt, to recover from even the most daunting of challenges. People begin to rely on older technologies, perhaps rediscovering the use of traditional radio waves, telephone lines, and local communication systems. Global supply chains are reevaluated and regionalized. People find new ways to travel and navigate without the reliance on satellites, learning to live with less precision and more patience. Though rebuilding takes time, this crisis would also lead to a renewed sense of community. With fewer distractions and disconnections, people might come together, relying more on face-to-face communication and local connections than ever before. The space age that once seemed so far ahead might give way to a more humble, terrestrial focus. But it would be a reminder that even when technology falters, humanity's ability to recover remains its greatest strength. The fall of every satellite to Earth would be a lesson in fragility, how dependent we've become on the technology that silently shapes every aspect of our lives. The satellite network, once invisible, would reveal its profound importance, showing us just how thin the line is between the convenience of modern life and the chaos of a world without these floating sentinels.